The randomly selected running order for the positions will be as follows. We'll start with the sport candidates. We'll then move on to activities, then welfare, education, and finally the president. Okay, we'll start by calling up one by one the candidates for the relevant position. The candidates will then be given the opportunity to deliver a speech lasting up to 1 minute and 30 seconds. The order in which the speeches are given has been randomly selected. When all the candidates for the given role have delivered their speeches, we'll then move on to questions which have been submitted through the Kent Union Facebook and Twitter accounts. You may also suggest questions throughout the evening tonight by filling in postcards which have been given out. If you'd like a postcard, you can come and get one from Mel. And when you've filled in your postcards, please come and give it back to Mel. Okay, the questions which you submit must be suitable for all candidates to answer. They must not be aimed at one candidate, and they must not be aimed at a particular candidate's manifesto points. And all candidates will be asked the same questions, and they'll have a minute for each answer. Okay, and also, just to let you know, this event is being filmed live by KTV, and it's going out on ktvlive.co.uk. So please don't swear. Okay, so we'll start with our sports candidates. Could Christopher Ball please come up? Okay, and next up we have Matthew Lane. And Lorcan O'Duffy. And finally, Mike Salmon. Okay, the order in which you'll be delivering your speeches will be Chris first, then Matt, then Mike, then Lorcan, and we'll follow up with 3 questions. So, Chris, if you'd like to come up.
Sit.
Francis, just sitting there. When you've got 10 seconds left, to raise his book.
Yeah.
And when you run out of time, he'll say time. So when he says time, you have to stop.
Yeah, that's right, no worries. Cool. Do I start at my own time, or should we go? Right. Oh, hello everyone, I'm Chris Ball, running to be your next sports vice president here at the University of Kent. Right, there are up to 60 different sports clubs here at the University of Kent, and every single one of them matters. Regardless of the size, the ability, and the sport itself, I will pledge to do all I possibly can to help each individual club to grow, progress, and develop in the year to come. No club is bigger or better than any other one. We all play for the University of Kent. We all wear the same colours, we wear the same badge. We're all part of the same team. So it's about time we started acting like it. Not every club is fortunate enough to be battling for promotion. Many are battling for survival. With dwindling numbers and rising costs, many are getting threatened more and more each year. You know, every club has the right and is entitled to the same support and the same treatment as everyone else. I pledge that each individual club will receive equal representation. I pledge to make sport enjoyable, affordable, and accessible for all here at the University of Kent. Regardless of whether you're having a kickabout with your mates on a Saturday morning or you're competing in national championships, it's all the same. We play this game because we love it. So therefore we should play with one another, for one another, and we should play with a smile. So let's give it a go. Let's vote ball. Thank you.
Okay, and next up we have Matthew Lane.
Good. Hi everyone, I'm Matt. Been on the rowing committee for a couple of years now, so that's given me the chance to see how sport works both on a student level and from a union perspective as well. My manifesto comprises of 3 main points. They are finance, longevity and varsity. So from a finance point of view, the main thing I want to do is implement a cup fund. At the moment we've got a lot of clubs doing really well in their respective cups and getting to quarters, semis, even finals, and then are struggling to be able to finance getting to where the event's held. So this cup would be similar to this fund would be similar to the development fund, and created so clubs can use it to finance getting when they're doing really well in their cups. In terms of longevity, I want to get another minibus. Obviously, we've got a lot of clubs up to sort of 60. Sharing 2 minibuses is simply not enough, and also have the accounts made available online. It's almost primitive going up into the office just to get something printed off when it can be just sent by an email or just log onto the union website and get it there. Finally, for varsity, I want to have clubs put back in it that were taken out this year and more clubs put in. Thanks very much for listening.
Okay, next up we have Mike Salmon.
Hi guys, I'm Mike. I've done 2 years on the rugby committee, Team Kent exec this year, and I've also sat on the union council. A lot of experience of how the university runs in terms of relationships with committees on sports teams and clubs. One of the few things I want to change this year, well not change for next year, rather develop, because I think we're in a good period, a good stage at the university. I don't think we're in a bad stage where things necessarily have to change, just have to adapt and improve, because there's always room to improve. The main thing for me is the greater distribution of development fund money for a lot of the smaller clubs, because I think they feel almost neglected by the bigger clubs getting massive amounts of funding and just not getting the same sort of share as other candidates have said. You know, we're one big team. We're not just the big teams and then the small teams that just comprise of this all Team Kent. We are all the same, so we should be equally, you know, entitled to the development fund money. Utilising all the training and playing spaces available to Kent, because at the moment a lot of clubs struggle they have to share time slots or you know, to take it in turns to have spaces in the sports. So the new development, I think, needs to utilise that as much as we can, and the tennis pavilion as well, not just for tennis but also for other clubs. And finally, I think there should be more coverage on CSR, KTV and online in terms of sports news and information, because I don't think a lot of us know enough information about teams competing in 1A or Premiership leagues, their results, teams winning the cups. I think a new show should be done, a sports show on a Sunday, so because a lot of teams play Saturday league and Sunday games, and that way we can update them on weekend fixtures and results as well. Thank you.
And finally, Lorcan O'Duffy.
Hi guys, I'm Lorcan. Sport's been a huge part of my life here at Kent over the past few years, much to my lecturer's dismay. But over the past few years, we've seen Team Kent grow, and it's finally come about this year, and we're just at the cusp of what it can become. And I really want to take that development a step further, and that includes with one of the main ideas I want to bring in is the Team Kent card, which would mainly be focused at sports clubs, so really be something to make you feel part of something special, which Team Kent has become this year. Along with that, I want to see the improvement and protection of our facilities. Some of you might have seen that they were vandalised by someone, but that's not what I mean. I mean talking about protecting our pitches, making sure that they're there for at least 50 years to mark in 2015 the 50th anniversary of the university. There are plenty of other things I could say as well, but 90 seconds isn't that long a time. So I will say please go check my manifesto online or come and ask me a question if you want. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're now moving on to questions for the candidates. You have a minute to answer each question. You'll get a 10-second warning from Francis, who'll hold up his book if you're going to run over. And we will randomly set the order in which you answer the questions. Okay, the first question is, as a member of a women's sports team, what will you do to ensure women are equally represented within the sports community, i.e. pitch usage and development of the clubs? And we'll start with Mike.
I don't think there's too much of an issue with this, but obviously someone wouldn't raise the question if there wasn't. So I do feel that sometimes the women's teams do get overlooked, and it is a big focus on the male teams and the men's teams and succeeding and achieving. So obviously you try and find a balance between them, and if it's like men's football and women's football, or men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse, represent them as lacrosse, but obviously recognise their success as men's and women's teams. So that's about all I have to say on that.
Okay, and we'll move on to Lorcan.
Okay, all right. You know, I don't think it's that much of a massive issue. I myself, I coach the women's rugby team twice a week at the moment, and I know for a fact that if the women's rugby first team have a game on, they get the first team pitch, and second men's rugby go on the second team pitch, and that's the way it should be. If you're the highest ranked in your sport, you should get that top facility, so to say. So I don't see it as being a major issue, but if it is, it can be something that can be addressed quite easily, really.
Okay, and Chris?
Yeah, sort of following with the boys, regardless of what sex you are, we're all on the same team here. And with the club that I've been involved in, Athletics Cross Country this year, the female presence has enhanced the club considerably, especially some of the blokes don't want to get beat by the girls. So, progression came, girls and boys developed much quicker purely because a little bit of competition, a bit of rivalry. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same team regardless of what club you are and what sex you are. So therefore, you will get same responsibility, the same treatment, and the same time from me if I was to get this role. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, and finally, Matt.
Can I have the question once more? Is that all right? Am I allowed to do that?
Okay, yep. As a member of a women's sports team, what will you do to ensure women are equally represented within the sports community, i.e. pitch usage and development of the clubs?
Okay, so I think the pitch usage side of things just comes down to communication with Kent Sport. Obviously, if Kent Sport are seeing, for example, rugby as one club rather than men's rugby and women's rugby, but they might just be ignorant to the fact that they need to be treated separately and get allocated pitch time accordingly. In terms of women's sides not being prioritised or not given equal treatment as men's sides, all I can do is pledge that everyone will be treated equally, especially when it comes down to funding. And I will work with Kent Sport to make sure that pitches are allocated as fairly as possible.
Okay, excellent. And we'll now move on to the second question. If you had to choose, would you prioritise working to make sport more accessible to all of our members or raising the standard of our ability? And we will start with Chris.
Well, ultimately, they work hand in hand. I would prioritise initially to go with participation, because the old participation pyramid, the more people you get at the bottom, essentially through grassroots sports, ultimately the more then will develop into the sports clubs, which will then generate competition. More will then get into the development squads. Ultimately, more will get to the top of the pyramid in the elite. So ultimately, the more we get playing sport, the more we can get to the top at the highest standard. So I prioritise making sport accessible for all, because ultimately that is a proven method for getting people to the top. So.
Okay, and we'll move on to Mike.
Just to follow on with Chris as well, I'd make it more accessible first, because there's no point in focusing on the elites. The more people you got accessible to sports, then the better your achievements are going to be. And there's no way we want to deter people from joining sport. I think, if anything, we want to try and increase participation as much as we can and get more and more teams we can in Bucks, get a better representation and get up in that Bucks league, because everyone loves seeing us going up in that league against all the other South East teams when we're not as well funded as some of the other big sports unis. So I think increasing participation is a really big thing here at Kent.
Okay, and we'll move on to Matt.
One of my manifesto points is to create more college leagues, and in doing so, that would enable clubs to take sort of a greater pool of members. So that sort of, in doing so, that will help them in a running way. They won't have to necessarily focus on training all of their members. They'll be self-sufficient in their college teams, but they'll also be able to take that greater pool of members. From then, they can also focus on picking people from those college leagues who are up to a certain standard, and they can put them in their competing teams. And then hopefully through that method, we'll be able to raise the standard as well.
Okay, and Lorcan.
Can I have the question again, please?
Yes. If you had to choose, would you prioritise working to make sport more accessible to all of our members or raising the standard of our ability?
Much as the other three lads have said, really is a combination of the both. If you want to get the best result possible, you need to have strength and depth to increase development, but also to increase the reachings at the top end of the spectrum, and everything else has been covered, so done.
Okay, and we'll now move on to the third and final question, which is, what is the one change, not continuation, that you would make coming into office? So that's what is the one change, not a continuation, that you would make coming into the office? And we will start with Lorcan.
I probably would change the big field that's just down from the pavilion into a space in the best way possible, enough for 3 pitches, and one being a versatile pitch, because I really do believe that green open space is the best way to get people involved in sport, because no matter what you do, you can go out, you can go have a run, chuck around a ball, you can kick around a ball, you can do anything there, even if it's just a piece of grass.
Okay, and Matt?
I would change the finance system that we've currently got in the union. As it stands, anything that you've got left in your account at the end of the year is wiped, and I don't really think that's fair. I think if you put the money in, you should be able to carry that on and spend it over the year. Obviously, the members that are putting that money in want to see that spent on them, especially third years. If they're putting money in, they don't want to see that being saved. So I'm proposing creating a third account instead of a main as a spends. I'd also want a grant account where your grant is put in. So you have to spend through your main account first and make sure the subscriptions are spent before you can start tapping into your grant. But then if you do that and you've still got grant left over at the end of the year, I'd want that to be allowed to carry over so clubs can start saving for bigger and better assets and really get that equipment that they need.
Okay, and Chris?
One of my major points actually on my manifesto is the proposal in the long term for the formation of an athletics union. What I believe at the moment is that the support that we have in terms of numbers of staff isn't... The girls up in the office and Matt do an absolutely fantastic job, but ultimately the amount of sports teams that we have for those to oversee is considerably too large. So ultimately I'd like to expand the relationship, one, between Kent Union, because that's obviously where all the students are and the ideas, and then Kent Sport has the money, the finance, and ultimately the facilities. We bring these two together to form one big partnership. We create a team of between sort of 10 to 15 people, full-time staff and a student-run committee, whereby a larger provision of resources, funding and information ultimately can lead to what in the long run would be the formation of an athletics union. Now, yes, this is a long-term plan that would take, a good, say, 3, 4, 5, 6 years to implement, but it's putting this in place and seeing if there is any scope out there for it to happen. Thank you.
Okay, and Mike?
The one thing I would definitely change would be the gym membership. I just feel that a lot of people aren't happy with the pricing of it, and my idea would be to have 3 different options, one just for the sports centre, one just for the pavilion facilities there, and then one combined if you were to use both and utilise it that way. Ultimately, the combined one, like the one at the moment, would be quite expensive, but you'd get the most out of it if you're going to spend that much money, because a lot of people who just use pavilion a couple of times a week are having to pay the full amount or pay each time, and it's just only going to go up. I just think it'd be more appealing to more people and deter people from not being members of University of Kent's gym and membership here, rather than going to DW or into town, and then you will limit people hopping over the fence onto the Astro and just trying to sneak around the back of the pavilion. I think it'd be much more appealing to everyone to have 3 different options of membership. You feel like you've got more of a chance to pick and choose when you can and go to different facilities.
Okay, excellent. That brings our VP Sports question time to a close. So a big round of applause for our sports candidates.